In the dark corners of the slave market, creatures from many worlds gathered. The air smelled of metal, oil, and fear. Metal cages lined the walls, each holding a different slave from faraway planets. But now almost all cages were empty. Every slave was sold except one. In the last small cage sat a thin alien girl with pale blue skin and large sad eyes. She hugged her knees and kept her head down, wishing to disappear. No one had bid for her. The auctioneer, a fat creature with rough skin and 4 arms, shouted, "Last chance, last slave." Very cheap, but the buyers only laughed. "Too weak," said one. "Not worth feeding," said another. The auctioneer sighed, ready to close the cage, when a human stepped forward. His name was John. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, dusty boots, and his eyes were sharp. Calm, but watching everything carefully. The crowd turned their heads in surprise. Humans almost never came to this dark place, and when they did, they never bought slaves. The auctioneer laughed bitterly. "You want her? Worthless. I give you a discount, almost free." John did not answer. He walked closer to the cage and looked at the small girl. For a second, she lifted her head, and their eyes met. In that short moment, John saw something others had missed. Behind her sadness and fear, there was a small but strong spark of will to live. "What is your name?" John asked gently. The girl looked shocked. No one had ever asked her name before. After a pause, she whispered, "Asha." The auctioneer shouted again, "1 silver coin. Take her." John ignored the noise around him and spoke softly again. "Asha, do you want to leave this place?" Her eyes filled with tears, and she gave a small, fast nod. John pulled out a silver coin from his coat and tossed it to the auctioneer. "Done," he said. The auctioneer laughed loud. "Foolish human. She won't last a week." John said nothing. He opened the cage himself and held out his hand. Asha hesitated, but then, slowly, reached out her thin blue fingers and took his hand. Her small fingers trembled as she stepped out of the cage. The crowd behind them laughed and shouted, but John stayed calm, walking away with Asha holding tightly. To his coat, she was confused. She had heard stories about humans. Humans hated slavery and never bought slaves. Why had this man bought her? Why did he not beat her or tie her up like others would? As they left the market, Asha's heart beat fast. She was free from the cage, but she did not know what freedom really meant. John took her to his ship, a small but clean vessel parked. Outside the noisy market, when the door opened with a soft hiss, Asha froze at the entrance. She was afraid. Was this another trick? "Come inside," John said kindly. "You are safe now." She stepped in slowly. The inside of the ship was warm and quiet. It smelled of oil and leather, but not of fear or pain. John handed her a soft blanket and a small bottle of water. Asha sat in a corner, wrapping the blanket tightly around her thin frame. She stared at him with big, questioning eyes. After a long silence, she finally asked in a whisper, "Why?" John sat across from her. His face was calm but serious. "Because I saw something in you," he said. "You are worth saving." Asha felt strange hearing these words. No one had ever spoken to her kindly before. She had only known orders, insults, and pain. But this man spoke softly and gave her food, water, and warmth without asking for anything. She did not understand. As the ship lifted off from the ground, the market grew smaller and smaller outside the window. Asha watched quietly, hugging the blanket close. Far from them, hidden in the shadows of the market, a dark figure watched their ship leave. He was one of the buyers who had wanted all the slaves, but missed this last one. His eyes narrowed as the ship disappeared into the sky. His mouth twisted into a cruel smile. "This is not over," he whispered to himself. "That human will regret this soon. As John's ship flew higher into the stars, Asha began to feel a strange new feeling deep inside her. Feeling she never thought she could feel again. Hope, but danger was coming. The man in the shadows was already making plans. The story of Asha and the human was only just beginning. And soon they would both discover that saving a life sometimes brings even bigger dangers. Asha did not know what her future would be, but for now, she was free. She was no longer just a slave. She was Asha, and a human had given her a new chance. The stars outside the ship's window were bright and endless, but inside the small ship, Asha sat silently, still holding the blanket tightly around her thin body. The hum of the engines filled the room, but it was peaceful, not loud or frightening like the sounds of the market. John sat at the control panel, flying smoothly through space, but his mind was busy. He kept glancing back at Asha, wondering what she had been through, how long she had been locked in that cage, and why no one else had seen her value. Asha watched him carefully, confused and scared. This human was strange. He spoke gently. He had not chained her. He had not shouted at her. He had given her water and a blanket and left her alone. She did not know how to behave now. For as long as she could remember, she had always followed orders, been punished or ignored. But John had asked her what she wanted. That question still echoed in her mind. "Do you want to leave this place?" Slowly, she stood up, clutching the blanket like a shield, and stepped toward him. John noticed and smiled slightly, but said nothing, letting her take her time. Asha's voice was soft, trembling as she asked, "Where are you taking me?" John leaned back in his seat and answered calmly, "Away from that place. To a safer place, a better life." She frowned, confused. "Am I still a slave?" she whispered. John shook his head firmly. "No. You are free now, Asha. No one owns you. Not me. Not anyone. You can choose your path." His words were so strange, too. Her that she sat down slowly on the floor near him, her mind spinning. She had never been free. She did not even know what freedom meant. She did not know how to live as a free person. But before she could ask more questions, a red light flashed on the control panel. A warning. T's face hardened instantly. His fingers flew over the buttons, checking the readings. Asha's heart raced again, fear returning quickly. "What is happening?" she asked, clutching the blanket tighter. John's voice was steady but serious. "Someone is following us. The ship is coming fast." Asha's eyes widened. She whispered, though deep inside she feared she already knew. John looked back at her. "Probably someone from the market. Maybe they didn't like me taking you." He stood up and handed her a seatbelt, helping her buckle into the chair next to him. "You need to stay calm," he said. "We'll get through this." The ship shook slightly as John pushed it faster. On the small radar screen, a red dot was getting closer. Asha felt panic rising in her chest. Was this freedom going to end? So soon, would they catch her again? She did not want to go back in the cage. Never again. John noticed her fear and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I promised you safety," he said. And I keep my promises." His words were strong, giving her a small sense of comfort. Outside, in the cold emptiness of space, another ship approached. It was black, sharp, and fast, a hunter's ship. Inside that ship sat the shadowy buyer from the market, the man who had watched them leave. His face was cold and cruel. "Foolish human," he muttered. "You think you can just take my property and escape? I will show you what happens too. Those who steal from me." His fingers danced over the controls, preparing weapons. He wanted to destroy John's ship, take the girl, and make an example out of the human who dared defy him. Back in John's ship, alarms rang louder. John swore under his breath but stayed calm. He quickly flipped switches, changing course sharply. The stars outside blurred as the ship twisted through space. Asha held on tightly, her heart pounding, louder than the alarms. Suddenly, the other ship fired a shadow-bright beam of light shot past them, missing by inches. John's hands were fast, pulling the ship into a steep dive. He glanced at Asha, making sure she was still safe. "Hold on tight," he said. "This is going to get rough." Another shot came, this one closer. Asha squeezed her eyes shut, whispering a quiet prayer to the stars, begging them not to let her fall back into darkness. John's ship twisted again, pulling a sharp turn that surprised the attacker. For a moment, they gained distance. John quickly pressed a hidden switch, opening a secret compartment under the controls. Inside was a device, small but powerful, a short-range jump drive. "This will work," he whispered. "It has to." He activated it, and suddenly, the ship glowed bright and then disappeared from sight, leaving nothing behind. The shadowy man cursed loudly as his target vanished from his radar. In John's ship, space bent and twisted around them as they jumped to a distant, hidden part of the galaxy. Asha opened her eyes slowly as the shaking stopped. The stars outside were different, now quiet and peaceful again. John turned to her, giving a small, tired smile. "We made it," he said. But he knew this was only the beginning. Someone had marked them now. Asha's freedom would not come easily, but for now, they were safe. And for the first time in her life, Asha felt that maybe this human truly would keep his promise. John's ship floated quietly in a far hidden corner of the galaxy. The stars outside were strange and different from the ones Asha had seen before. But for the first time in her life, they did not look scary. She sat, wrapped in her blanket, still unsure of what freedom meant, but at least she was safe for now. John moved around the small cabin, checking the ship's systems, fixing damage from the attack. His face was calm, but serious. He knew they had escaped, but danger still followed them. The man who chased them would not stop so easily. Asha watched John carefully, studying his every movement. She felt small and weak next to him, yet she could sense he was not like the other master she had seen at the market. He had no chains, no whip, and he never shouted. Instead, he spoke softly, and his eyes showed kindness. Slowly, her fear began to fade, replaced by a strange feeling she could not name trust. But her heart still held many questions. After a long silence, she asked, "Why did that man follow us?" John turned to her and sat down across from her. His voice was gentle, but firm as he explained that man didn't want to lose control. "He saw you as property, something to own. When I took you away, I made him angry. People like him think they can own anyone or anything, and when they lose, they want revenge." Asha lowered her eyes. She still struggled to understand this world of freedom and choice. She had lived as a slave so long that she did not know how to think like a free person. "What happens now?" she asked softly. John gave a small smile. "Now we find a place where you can live safely, where no one can ever put you in a cage again." Asha felt hope rise in her heart, but before she could speak again, the ship's alarm gave a quiet beep. John frowned and walked to the control panel. His fingers danced quickly over the buttons. Asha could see his face tighten as he read the message on the screen. "What is it?" she asked carefully. John took a deep breath. "Someone left a tracking beacon on the ship." "That's how they found us so fast." Asha's eyes widened. "Are they coming again?" John nodded slowly. "Maybe not yet, but soon. We must remove the beacon, or they will follow us forever." His voice was steady, but Asha felt fear creeping back into her chest. Would she ever be truly safe? John quickly changed course, flying toward a small, empty moon nearby. "We'll land there," he said. "I can search the ship properly and remove the tracker. The moon looked cold and empty as they approached. Its surface was gray and covered in dust, but it offered safety for now. The ship touched down gently, and John grabbed a small toolkit. "Stay inside," he told Asha kindly. "Won't be long." Asha watched as he stepped outside, the ship's door closing softly behind him. She hugged her blanket tightly, looking around the cabin, feeling the quiet hum of the engines under her feet. Outside, John moved carefully under the ship, using his tools to search every corner. After a few minutes, he found a small black device stuck under the engine. It was tiny but powerful, sending signals that could lead their enemies straight to them. John carefully removed it, his mind racing. How had they managed to attach it? Had someone done it while he was in the market? He crushed the device under his boot, but still, he felt uneasy. This was too easy. He stood up and looked around the empty gray landscape of the moon. Everything was silent, too silent. Suddenly, a noise behind him made him spin around. From the shadows of a nearby rock, a figure appeared. It was the same dark man who had followed them, his cold eyes shining with anger. "You didn't think you could escape so easily, human," the man said, his voice cold and cruel. He raised a small weapon, pointing it at John. Inside the ship, Asha watched through the small window. She saw John freeze and the dark figure pointing a gun. Panic filled her chest, but she couldn't look away. John slowly raised his hands. "You don't have to do this," he said calmly. But the man only laughed. "You stole from me." "I always collect what's mine," he said. Asha felt her heart racing faster than ever. She knew she was small, weak, and afraid, but something inside her refused to let this man take her back. She could not go back to the cage. Not now, not. After tasting even one day of freedom, without thinking, she stood up. She looked around the cabin, her eyes falling on a metal tool that John had left on the floor. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Then she made a choice. She ran to the ship's door, pressing the open button with shaking fingers. The door hissed open and cold air rushed in. John and the dark man both turned in shock. For a second, no one moved. Then Asha stepped forward, holding the metal tool tightly in her hands. Her voice was loud and clear for the first time. "Leave him alone," she shouted. The dark man laughed again, but John's eyes widened, proud and surprised. At her bravery, the moment felt frozen in time, but everything was about to change. The fight for freedom was not over. It was only just beginning. Asha stood in the cold air of the moon, holding the metal tool in her shaking hands. Her small frame trembled, but her voice was loud and brave when she had shouted at the dark man to leave John alone. The dark man turned his cruel eyes on her, surprised to see the weak alien girl stepping out of the ship. For a second, he did not speak. Then he laughed, a cold sound that made Asha's heart race faster. "So, the slave speaks," he said, aiming his gun at her now. "Did this human teach you to be brave?" John's heart jumped when he saw the weapon pointed at Asha. He took a careful step forward, his voice calm but firm. "Leave her out of this. You came for me, right? Take me and let her go." The dark man sneered. "No. You took what was mine, now you both pay." He stepped closer to Asha, his gun steady, but John moved quickly. With sudden speed, he grabbed a handful of dust from the ground and threw it at the man's face. The dark man cursed, blinking fast as the dust hit his eyes. In that moment of confusion, John lunged forward and tackled him to the ground. The gun fired once, the shot missing both of them. Asha froze, her breath caught in her throat as she watched them struggle on the ground. The dark man was stronger than John, but John fought with fierce determination. He would not let this man take Asha. Not now. Not ever. Asha could see that John was losing, though. The dark man was pushing him down, his hands reaching for the gun again, without thinking. Asha ran forward, raising the metal tool above her head. Her hands shook, but she knew what she had to do. She brought the tool down hard on the dark man's back. He shouted in pain, twisting around to face her, his eyes full of rage. John took advantage of the distraction. He grabbed the gun and pulled it from the man's hands, throwing it far across the ground. Then he pushed the man off him and stood up quickly, placing himself between Asha and the attacker. The dark man struggled to his knees, his face twisted with anger. "This isn't over," he hissed. "You can run, but I will find you both again." John did not waste time replying. He grabbed Asha's hand and pulled her back toward the ship. Together they ran, Asha's feet barely touching the ground as John pulled her inside. The door closed with a loud hiss, and John rushed to the pilot's seat. "Hold on," Key called out, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. Ash jumped into the seat next to him and buckled herself in tightly, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. The engines roared as John lifted the ship from the surface of the moon. Below, the dark man stood and watched, his face full of hate as the ship rose into the sky and disappeared into space. But he did not give up. He picked up a small communicator from his pocket and spoke into it. "Send a signal to all hunters. A human has stolen my property. Want them found, alive or dead." Back in the ship, John's hands were tight on the controls, but his voice was gentle when he spoke to Asha. "You were very brave," he said. "I didn't expect that. Thank you." Asha looked at him, still breathing fast. "I couldn't let him take you," she whispered. Her voice shook, but her eyes were clear now. She felt something new inside her, a strength she didn't know she had. John smiled slightly. "You did good, Asha, but we are not safe yet. He will come after. US again. He won't stop." Asha nodded slowly, understanding now that freedom was not just a gift, it was something they would have to fight for. Her old life as a slave was over, but her new life would not be easy. "Where will we go?" she asked quietly. John's face was serious as he thought for a moment. Then he said, "We need to go somewhere far, somewhere he cannot reach us. There is a colony on the edge of known space, a free colony. No slavery there. They protect their own. We can go there. You can start a new life." Asha felt hope again, but it was mixed with fear. Would they make it? Would this dark man send more hunters? She had seen his eyes cold, cruel, and full of hate. He would not stop. But she trusted John. He had saved her, and she had saved him too. They were a team now. She could feel it. As the ship sped into deep space, leaving the moon behind, Asha wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and looked out the window. The stars stretched before them, bright and endless. For the first time, she allowed herself to dream. Maybe she could really be free. Maybe she could have a future. But far behind them, danger still waited. The dark man's voice had already spread through the shadows of the galaxy. Hunters would come. Asha and John would have to fight again. But whatever happened next, Asha knew one thing for sure. She would never go back to the cage. As John's ship flew deeper into the dark reaches of space, Asha sat quietly by the window, watching the stars drift past like tiny lights in an endless sky. She still felt fear inside her, but beside that fear was a strange new strength. She had acted to protect John on the moon, and for the first time in her life, she felt that she mattered. John worked at the control panel, checking maps, reading data, and planning the safest route to the free colony he had mentioned. His face was tired but calm. Asha finally broke the silence. "Do you think they will come again?" she asked softly. John nodded slowly, not looking away from the controls. "Yes, that man won't stop. he will send others. Hunters, trackers, maybe even soldiers. But we will stay ahead of them. We must. His voice was steady, but Asha could see how serious he was. She hugged the blanket around her shoulders and whispered, "I don't want to go back in a cage." John turned and looked at her, his eyes kind and strong. "You won't," he said firmly. "I promise you, Asha, you will never be a slave again." Those words made her heart feel lighter, but deep down, she knew the road ahead was dangerous. Hours passed quietly as the ship moved through empty space. The stars seemed peaceful, but inside the ship, both John and Asha felt the weight of what might come next. Then, suddenly, the alarms began to beep again, soft at first, then louder. John leaned forward, eyes narrowing as he read the screen. Asha felt her heart jump. "What is it?" she asked quickly. John's fingers flew over the buttons. Another ship, fast gaining on us. Asha's hands trembled. "The hunters?" John nodded. "It must be them. They found us sooner than I thought." He switched off the main lights in the ship. Only the glow from the control panels lit their faces now. John spoke quickly. "Asha, listen to me. This ship is small and fast, but it has one weakness. It can't fight. If they catch us, we cannot win a battle. We have to hide." Asha nodded, listening carefully. Her fear was growing again, but she trusted John. He had saved her before. She believed he would do it again. John scanned the space map quickly. Then he saw a small asteroid field nearby. "Perfect," he whispered. He turned the ship sharply, making it head straight for the field of rocks. Outside, the stars blurred as they flew faster and faster. Behind them, the hunter ship followed, closing the distance. Inside that hunter ship sat a cold, silent pilot. One of the best trackers in the galaxy, hired by the Dark Man from the market. His orders were simple. Bring back the slave girl and punish the human who stole her. The hunter ship locked onto John's ship and fired a shot, a bright beam of energy that barely missed, flashing past Asha's window. She gasped and held onto her seat tightly. John pushed his ship even faster, weaving between the asteroids. Giant rocks floated all around them, spinning slowly in the emptiness of space. One wrong move could smash their ship to pieces. John's hands moved quickly, steering carefully, dodging rocks as big as mountains. The hunter ship fired again. But the shot hit an asteroid instead, breaking it into pieces. Inside John's ship, Asha's eyes were wide. She had never seen anything like this before. She wanted to help, but didn't know what to do. Then John spoke without turning. "Asha, I need your help. There's a second seat at the controls. I can't do this alone." Asha hesitated, fear filling her heart again. But then she remembered what John had said. "You are free now. You can choose your path." She took a deep breath and moved to the second seat, sitting beside him. John quickly showed her the simple controls. "When I say, press this button, it releases a flare. The flare can confuse the hunter ship's sensors for a few seconds. Those seconds could save us." Asha nodded quickly. The hunter ship fired. Again, this time the shot was closer. John shouted, "Now, Asha. Press it now." Asha slammed the button with her small hand. A bright flare shot out from the back of their ship, filling space with blinding light. The hunter ship sensors glitched for a moment, and that was all John needed. He pulled the ship into a tight spin, diving deeper into the asteroid field, slipping behind a large rock. For a few precious moments, they were hidden. The hunter ship flew past, missing them completely. John breathed out slowly. "Good job, Asha," he said with a smile. Asha smiled back, feeling proud and brave, her heart still racing. "Did we lose them?" she asked. John checked the radar. "For now, but they will come back. We need to keep moving." He steered the ship out of the asteroid field, setting a new course toward the distant free colony. As the stars moved past them again, Asha sat quietly, thinking about what had just happened. She had helped. She had made a choice. She was no longer just a slave waiting for orders. She was part of this fight. But deep in space, the hunter was already turning back, angry and determined. He would not give up so easily. The hunt was far from over. John's ship flew through space, quiet and smooth for now. Inside, the soft hum of the engines filled the cabin, but both John and Asha felt the weight of what had happened. They had escaped again, but danger still chased them. Asha sat by the window, watching the endless stars. She felt proud of what she had done pressing that button, helping John, but she also felt fear. She knew the hunter would not give up. John checked the radar again and again, making sure no ship followed them. His face was serious, tired but determined. Asha finally broke the silence. "How much farther to the free colony?" she asked softly. John glanced at the map. "Still far." "A few more jumps," he answered. "But we're getting close. Once we reach there, they can protect us." Asha nodded, but deep inside, she wondered if any place could truly protect them. The dark man from the market was cruel and powerful. His hunters were skilled. Would they really be safe? Hours passed. John tried to rest, but couldn't sleep. He sat at the controls, thinking, planning. Asha stayed close, her blanket wrapped around her thin shoulders. She did not speak much, but inside her mind, many questions swirled. Why had John chosen to help her? Why did he care? And what would her life be like at this free colony he spoke of? As she stared out the window, a soft beep from the control panel made her heart jump. John leaned forward quickly. His face tightened as he read the message on the screen. "No," he whispered under his breath. Asha sat up straight, her fear returning fast. "What is it?" she asked quickly. John sighed. "A blockade," he said. "There's a checkpoint ahead. Ships scan everyone passing through. The hunters sent a message ahead. They might be waiting for us there." Asha felt panic rise inside her. What will we do? John's mind worked fast. He searched the map for another route, but space was tricky here. The shortest way passed through this checkpoint. The other routes were longer and dangerous: asteroid storms, radiation fields, or black holes. He shook his head. "We can't go around. We'll have to go through. But carefully," he said. Asha swallowed hard. "Will they recognize us?" she asked. John nodded slowly. "They might, but maybe we can trick them." He stood up and opened a small locker near the wall. Inside were old clothes, tools, and gear. He pulled out a large brown cloak and handed it to Asha. "Put this on," he said. "Cover your face. If they scan us visually, they won't recognize you easily." Asha quickly did as he asked. The cloak was too big for her small frame, but it hid her pale blue skin and her face well. John also changed his clothes, wearing a simple worker's uniform to look like a cargo pilot. When he sat back at the controls, his face looked calm, but Asha could feel the tension in the air. "We'll act normal," he said softly. "Just another cargo ship passing through." The checkpoint appeared ahead, a small station floating in space, with bright lights and a few patrol ships moving around it. As they approached, a voice came through the radio. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself," the voice demanded. John pressed the button and spoke calmly. "This is the cargo ship Starlight, passing through on a supply run. No trouble here." There was a pause, then the voice replied, "Prepare for inspection." Asha's heart pounded so loud she was sure they would hear it. The ship slowed as they approached the inspection zone. A patrol ship flew close, scanning them carefully. John kept his hands steady on the controls, his face showing no fear. "Just breathe," he whispered to Asha, without turning. Shh. She sat perfectly still, her face hidden deep in the cloak. Inside the patrol ship, two inspectors looked at their screens. The scan showed only a human pilot and an unknown passenger wrapped in a cloak. No clear identification. One inspector frowned. "That might be them," he said quietly. "Should we board them?" But the other inspector shook his head. No solid proof. Just a worker and his assistant looks normal. Move them along. The voice came back over the radio. "You may pass. Cargo ship Starlight. Safe travels." John let out a long, quiet breath as he moved the ship forward, slowly leaving the checkpoint behind. Asha waited until they were far from the station before she spoke. "We did it," she whispered, almost unable to believe it. John smiled slightly, but did not relax fully. "Yes, but we're not safe yet. We must stay careful. They could change their mind and come after us again." Asha nodded slowly. The stars stretched out before them, again bright, silent, and endless. But behind them, danger still followed, watching from the shadows. Somewhere, the dark man from the market would soon hear that they had escaped the checkpoint. And when he did, he would not be pleased. The hunt was far from over, but for now, John and Asha had survived another test. The free colony was closer than ever, and hope burned brighter in Asha's heart. She was no longer just a passenger. She was part of this journey, part of this fight, and she would not give up. The stars seemed to shine brighter now as John's ship moved steadily toward the free colony. Inside, the air was quiet but filled with tension. Both John and Asha knew the chase was not over. The dark man who had once owned Asha as a slave would not stop until he caught them or destroyed them. But hope was growing stronger with every light year they crossed. Asha sat near the window, wrapped in the brown cloak John had given her, watching the stars fly past. She thought about how her life had changed so fast from a cage to this ship, from fear to freedom. She still did not fully understand what freedom meant, but she was learning. She was learning to trust, to act, and to believe that maybe she had a future after all. John sat at the controls, watching the map closely. They were getting close. Now, the free colony was only a few more hours away, hidden on a peaceful green planet on the edge of known space. It was a place where no slaver could take her back, where laws protected the weak, and where Asha could start again. But before they could reach it, danger appeared one last time. A sudden loud alarm rang in the cabin, pulling both of them from their thoughts. John's eyes flashed to the radar. There it was, a large ship behind them, fast and armed. It was the hunter. "He's back," John said quietly but seriously. Asha's heart jumped, fear filling her chest again. "Can we outrun him?" she asked quickly. John shook his head. "Not this time. He's too close. And we're almost at the colony's border, but not yet inside their protected space. We must hold him off for just a little longer." The hunter ship fired a warning shot. A bright red laser streaked past them, missing by only a few meters. Inside the hunter ship, the dark man himself sat at the controls, his face hard and full of rage. "You cannot escape me," he said, coldly to himself. "That slave is mine. That human will pay." John's fingers moved fast over the controls, setting the ship's defenses to automatic mode, but he knew their ship was not made for battle. It was small and quick, but unarmed. He needed a plan. Then, suddenly, Asha spoke. "Can we send a message to the colony?" she asked. "Can we tell them we are coming and ask for help?" John paused for a moment. "Yes," he said slowly. "It's risky, but we can try. The signal may not reach them in time, but we must try." Asha stood beside him now, no longer shaking, her fear replaced by courage. "Let me help," she said firmly. John nodded, showing her which button to press. Together, they sent the emergency message, typing quickly. "This is cargo ship Starlight. We are under attack near your border. Request immediate assistance. Passenger on board seeking asylum. Please respond." Then they waited. Seconds, feeling like hours. Behind them, the hunter ship fired again, this time, hitting the edge of John's ship, shaking it violently. Sparks flew from one of the control panels, and Asha fell to the floor, but quickly got up again. "We're hit," she shouted. John gritted his teeth and kept control of the ship, dodging another attack. "Come on, Colony," he whispered. "Answer us." Then the radio crackled down. A voice came through. "Starlight, this is free. Colony Defense, we received your message. Hold your position, we're on our way." Relief filled John's face, but the danger was not over yet. The hunter ship was closing fast, preparing for one last shot. "They won't make it in time," John said quickly. He turned to Asha. "Listen carefully. If they hit us again, we could lose control. I'll try to keep flying as long as I can, but when the colony ships arrive, they will protect us." Asha nodded bravely. The hunter ship fired again, but just as the lasers streaked toward them, 3 large ships appeared ahead of John's ship, blocking the shot. The Free Colony Defense had arrived, big, strong, and armed. A voice echoed through space. "Hunter vessel, you are in violation of Free Colony space. Stand down or be destroyed." The dark man froze for a moment. Then his face twisted into a scowl. He knew he was beaten. The Free Colony ships locked weapons on his ship, ready to fire. Slowly, angrily, he turned his ship around and disappeared into the stars. John let out a deep breath, his hands finally relaxing on the controls. Asha sat quietly beside him, watching the colony's ships escort them safely to the planet below. As they approached the colony, John looked at her and smiled. "You're free, Asha," he said gently. "Truly free now." Tears filled Asha's eyes, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of hope. For the first time, she could dream of a life beyond the cage, beyond the chains, beyond the fear. The colony grew larger in the window, a beautiful green world full of light and life. Asha knew this was the start of her real journey. She was no longer a slave. She was no longer lost. She had a name, a future, and a friend who believed in her worth. The stars behind them still held shadows and danger, but ahead of her was a world where she could finally be safe, finally belong. The story of Asha and John had just begun.